My name is Gabriele Darin. I'm a colleague of Vito Giannella, and I thank him for inviting me here. It's like going back home, because many years ago I followed two EU-funded projects, EBR On and EBR TIC. At the time, we didn't expect it to happen, the interconnection of the business registers, and now it's happening. So I'm really stunned. Yesterday was a very interesting day. The words that I kept hearing, timely, reliable, quality. It seems to me, according to the people that I've talked to, are words that are familiar to you, and they're coming in back and forth in each year. But what probably wasn't as familiar were the words open and free, which were the novelty this year. Also costs was a concept that was repeated many times. So it doesn't matter if it's a political decision or if it's a business decision, but in the end, someone has to pay for the delivering of the service. I would kindly ask Mrs. Ilman Weir from Information Services Corporation from Canada to show us another interesting approach that in a province of Canada, which I cannot pronounce, I'm sorry. They have set up a governmental agency a few years ago. It's a technical name. You'll be explaining it better than I do. But that transformed itself into a public company that is traded in the market. So this is very interesting. The government keeps a share of the company, and they are delivering services. So Mrs. Ilman Weir will show us how it works. I leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Gabrielle, and good morning, everyone, and hope everyone enjoyed their evening last night. I sure did. This has been a wonderful experience for us to attend, and thank you, Vito, for welcoming us so warmly as guests at the conference. It's been a tremendous learning experience, and I hope that I can share a little bit of information with you about our journey as an organization and what we've experienced and how we're delivering some registries in Saskatchewan. And I certainly know it won't equal what I have learned and what I'll be taking back home with me. So thank you to all of you for sharing so freely with me and with us all of your experiences and learnings. So I have just a few slides to talk to today. And as Gabrielle said, I just wanted to share the story of our organization and how we've come to be delivering registries for the province of Saskatchewan out of a company that's now a listed publicly traded organization. We were born out of the government of Saskatchewan. I'm going to talk to you about who we are and some of the trends that we see in Canada and in North America, and see if there's some connection to what we're seeing with what you may be experiencing and seeing here as well. Can I get the slides? Oh, there, mine's not advancing. It's slow. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so ISC has evolved from the Ministry of Justice, where initially several of our registries were delivered. We were formed in 2000 initially to integrate and deliver the land titles and survey systems and modernize and automate them and convert our many paper titles into an electronic system. We are a full-service provider of registries and have been since we were created as a Crown Corporation. So at the time we were created from executive government, we were created under a special statute as a corporate entity wholly owned and controlled and governed by the Government of Saskatchewan, and operated as a commercial entity and delivered dividends back to the General Revenue Fund of the province from our operations. Over the course of the life of the organization, we've taken on additional registries, and over the past year, the government felt that there was opportunity for the organization beyond what we were doing in Saskatchewan, and listed the organization through an initial public offering and retained 69% of their shares in the company. So we now trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange, with the government remaining our major shareholder. Our service delivery model is governed under a 20-year service agreement with the government, where we have the exclusive right to deliver 4 major registries for the province: the Land Titles Registry, the Survey and Plan Directory, the Personal Property Security Registry, and the Corporate Registry. In addition to the right to operate the registries, we have also been granted an exclusive license to the data associated with the registries and to commercialize that data for other purposes and uses. Some of the trends that we see affecting government in Canada and North America are what I'm interested in hearing more about and what I've been talking to many of you about. We see that certainly our own government was interested in reducing its footprint and the size of the government organization, and perhaps reducing the requirement for capital investment by the government to maintain and sustain registries in step with the pace of industry, commerce, and technology. So some of the trends that we see from our customers' point of view and from the government's point of view are importance on high levels of customer service. Those who interact with our registries, we believe, are looking for an experience similar to other industries and organizations they transact with. Our government, and we think others, are interested in outsourcing of business processes and services to organizations that develop and maintain expertise, as well as technology, currency, all with the underlying importance of the reliability and security of information. That is a table stakes piece that is critical to us, and we know is key to our continued success in this space. So these principles of any registry are ones that we hold dear and talk about regularly in our organization. These are the fundamental elements that you all will know very well. The collection, verification, maintenance, and authentication of information are core characteristics of all of the registries that we operate. And associated with that is the accessibility of the information in the registry. And that's been a topic of great debate and good discussion over the course of the past couple of days. And we take these functions and these responsibilities very seriously. We still operate as the custodian of the registries and have a special relationship with a very small office in the government that was created as part of our privatization, the Office of Public Registry Administration. So there are 5 individuals who have ultimate public policy responsibility for the registries, but we work very closely with them and maintain our own level of expertise around policy and how policy and process link together for an effective registry, and frequently make recommendations on legislative changes that will facilitate improved processes. In keeping in mind and honoring those principles of the registry, what we hold dear is a distinguishing factor of being a full-service registry provider. For our employees and our customers, the privatization of our organization has really been business as usual. It's been quite seamless, and that's something we're very proud of. Our new governing relationship with the government is something that we manage at a senior level in the organization. But for those who experience the transactional functions of the organization, and for our employees who have worked in the registries, many for a lifetime, they are part of our organization and will continue to be into the future, and it's been a very seamless change. So over the life of ISC, I just thought this slide might help share some of what we've experienced in changing and acquiring registries and modernizing them over time. As I mentioned, in 2000, I know this is hard to read, in 2000 we were created to automate and modernize the land titles registry and convert the paper titling system to electronic. The personal property registry came shortly after. We developed an online submission tool for the land titles registry. We acquired the vital statistics registry and ran that for the portion of time that we were a Crown corporation and returned it to government, we think, in an improved and modernized state. We also brought the corporate registry into our portfolio in 2010 and have been developing a portal for access by business customers into government services, including the corporate registry. We've been linking the corporate registry with our federal business number, which is used for taxation purposes, as well as to our provincial taxation and workers' compensation insurance schemes. We are in the process of undertaking the modernization of the corporate registry processes, similar to what we've done with the land registry. So some of the themes that we've seen, and I think are common to all of you, are conversion from paper manual to electronic, online service, always keeping in mind the core registry principles and purpose. That's a cultural value that is important to us, and we try to entrench that with our people in the organization and ensure that there's always a deep understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it. We are continually challenging the appropriate level of scrutiny for documents to maintain those principles and purposes, but ensure efficiency and speed of service. Customer focus and ensuring an excellent experience for our customers is key to our culture, and ensuring that our processes and services align to that. So that was really all I wanted to share with you. Thanks for your attention. Hopefully this will generate some discussion. We are curious to have some dialogue about whether this type of alternative service delivery model is something that would be of interest or value to others. We think that it is responsive to trends that are certainly impacting governments in Canada, and also the service delivery needs of the customers we're familiar with, and at the same time never losing sight of those core purposes and principles of the registry. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. There are two things that I've understood. First, that if I understood correctly, the province decided to outsource the management of several registers to what became a private entity, and that in the province being part of the company, it owns a part of the shares, is benefiting from the profits, and so if the shares go up, the province is benefiting. Okay. Mr. Tonini from Infocamere will be next. He'll be telling us about recent developments in the commercial law and the new services that have been recently launched in Italy within the business register domain. Antonio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Gabriele. Good morning, everyone. I'm Antonio Tonini. I'm in charge of software development and managing the services, IT services in Infocamere. My agenda is on different issues. Some are legal, some are technical. I would like to tell you about some initiatives, some legal initiatives, changing of the law in Italy that could be interesting for many registries, and some technical developments in our services. I would like to talk about registered email, PEC, Posta Elettronica Certificata, then about startups, companies which we are trying to help in Italy, and about the business network contract, a new form of agreement between companies which in Italy can be registered like a legal entity in the registry. And then I will talk about our website quickly. XBRL is widely known. The INIPEC is the registry of the certified email with more than 4 million certified email available to the public. Our dossier with the new QR code for better security and authentication, and I will talk like my colleague from Germany yesterday about the ELI. Just quickly, in Italy, we have a sort of email with certified. This email is available for everybody from a list of providers that are private companies who guarantee, who give the email on the authentication of the required. This kind of email for the Italian law is the same of the paper filing with notification that we use in the past. From 2005 till 2013, I put some steps about our law. Now, every company in Italy and sole trader too are obliged to have a certified email, and they have to use this, and the public bodies have to use this email to communicate with each other. And this is, for us, a big step towards reducing cost for traditional post services. Another piece, another action initiative in Italy for companies is about new companies and we call them, like I think in every part of the world, startups. And for us, startups are particular, are particular kind of companies that have a particular entry in the register. These companies have a sort of large amount of benefits for taxation. They have no taxation for 4 years, and many other advantages. Startups in Italy is a company with a list of characteristics. I report them. They regard that the company is an Italian company, should be established no longer than 48 months, and so on. You can read them. You can read the requirements, and at the end, I think the more qualifying, they have to fulfill one-letter requirements. Either the 30% of their costs are related to research and development, or the people who work in the company hold a PhD or are PhD candidates, and so on. This initiative starts in 2012, and now in the register, we have 2,084 startups. There's a particular section of the register, public, with open data available to the public with all the information about these companies. Another law initiative was about the business network contract. The network contracts are an alternative in Italy for consortium, for company fusion, or temporary business associations. Every kind of network between companies with the contracts that regulate in the time their relation is now possible to register in the business register this kind of contract. There are benefits for and a particular kind of taxation for these entities. They are legal entities only in certain cases. These companies in this network have to choose to be a legal entity. You can see at the end of the slide, we have in 1 year more or less 1,400 network contracts, and 100 of these are legal entities. We are looking in these days at some network contracts between Italian companies and foreign companies and other European companies. You know, in Italy, this comes from the fact that we have a big amount of companies, SME companies that are often difficult to put together in big companies. So we promote a lighter way to agree to have a relation, a contract between companies that is different from consortium and other traditional legal form. For every, like in the startups case, for business network contract, we have a particular section of the business register and a specific website to help new companies who want to find other similar situation and to maybe copy other contracts or finding partners between networks. And now to more technical stuff. You know that, like every of you, we run the business register as a service for different users. Let me say something about the major issue we discussed yesterday and today about data, open data, access. We have, I think, like every register, three major kinds of users: the public bodies, other public bodies different from, I don't know, the Ministry or the Chamber of Commerce in Italy, the tax agencies, the Social Security are strong users for the business register. And in Italy, we choose that all these are free of charge. This, inside the public bodies, data are free. It was a choice. Before, some years before, it was not the rule. Then we have big distributors. We call them distributors. They are private companies like yesterday you hear from CRIF, C-R-I-F, a company who rate the companies and so on. And we have 60 distributors from Italy, Italian companies or foreign companies, and 50 million visits per year. We think that when talking about charging the registration and charging the access of data, for our environment, for Italy, charging towards big companies who resell the data and have their profits, right profits on this, is correct. And is correct in confront of charging the Italian companies of all the costs of the register in the registration phase. So till now, and we are looking to all of you, all the countries, for their experiences in this. We think that is not correct to charge only the registration phase. That means that only the Italian companies will pay for the register and will pay for maybe big companies, corporations who will access to the data and will have their profit on this. Till now, we think it's something to keep in balance. And then we have the private user. For this, we mean the consumer, the small user, the citizen. We have 200 users, and we think that this is an increasing sector, and maybe that in this sector we have to find licenses to give open and free data to them. Every kind of our user have open data. We have free format, public specification, and so on. But talking about charging, we think that big companies, agency for companies rating, and so on, in the present and maybe in the next future, will continue to pay for the cost of the register. And maybe that the small users will have specific licenses to have free data. Our website is the point of access of our services. I will pass quickly to XBRL. Yesterday we talked. We heard Mr. Xavier about the development of this format. You know, in previous meeting, we talked a lot about XBRL. We are quite satisfied about our work on this, and we are happy that in Europe we are not alone. There are a lot of other countries, better than Italy, for sure, that are working on this. And this is a kind of a technical matter that helps us to be to the same line altogether. We have, after 3 years of working with mandatory XBRL on filing on accounts, the elements for the benefits we have from this, cost reducing in many sectors, and satisfaction from companies and from professionals. And now we are working on a new development. We are thinking that the XBRL could be the best standard for other documents connected to the annual accounts, but not dealing with figures, but dealing with description, with text, with relation, with description of the company, year, and trends. So we are working for a taxonomy, always in the XBRL standard, to describe this kind of document. And we are testing it with many users, and we are working for 2015 to have this format for the connected documents of the annual account mandated by law. Just a quick view about what I said before about electronic email, certified electronic email. I told you that is mandatory for companies and professionals. We set up the INIPEC. INIPEC is a register with a website and other kind of access, and is open and free for everybody. From June 2013, the register is running. We have, on the left, you can see the figures, 4,200 million and 2,000 million companies email that are available for everybody, and 1 million of professionals in this register. Professional, we mean notaries, engineers, medician, all kind of professional in Italy. And this is a strong pressure, a strong help towards digitalization in many relations between public and private bodies, but between companies and their professional. Companies are dealing each other with this kind of email, dealing with their lawyers, and this is an help for us because in Italy the email, the regular email, is not a valid tool to certify that you have notified somebody with an information or with a contract, with a document of particular value. Let's try next. Okay, sorry. At the end, a quick view about our recent development, about our company dossier. We changed completely the layout, and we introduced a code. This code gives the public the possibility, the chance to have the original document for 5 years. We keep these documents. Every dossier we deliver, and we deliver more or less 40 million documents per year. We keep them in digital form, and every user can, with that code, with an app, get the original, the document in digital form that we keep. This is to avoid fraud, because we have in many situations people claiming to be somebody's, to be a particular company, working on paper, changing the name, or changing the PDF file they have from the internet, and so on. So we saw an increasing trend in frauds, and we think we stop, we have element to be confident in this. We stop this bad habit and give to the register a particular strength with their document. We deliver this new dossier in March 2014, and in 1 month the mobile app was downloaded and installed in 100,000 devices. Last, you know everything about the EI. It's something different from what we know about companies and register legal entity identifier for subjects who deals with financial transaction. We, Chamber of Commerce, Infocamere, Unioncamere, choose to set up a LOU, a local organization unit for this identification, that you know is something that every country in the world from the G20 initiative have to set up to join the global network of financial subjects. And till now, from January to May, we deliver 20,000 codes to the companies, Italian and foreign companies, who ask us for this code. And for us, it's different, but it's still a part and new information for the business register. Thank you. And
Thank you, Mr. Torini, for keeping the presentation as short as possible, although there's a lot on the plate, as you've seen, many topics. Now, I'd like to introduce the General Director of the Business Register of Romania, Mrs. Mihalcea, who will show us a recently launched electronic service in the business register in Romania.
Thank you, Gabriele. Good morning, everybody. Before sharing our latest news, I would like to give you a few details about our online portal. It is the portal for online services. It was launched 2 years ago in February. It is co-financed from the European Regional Development Fund. It is a modern platform which allows many interconnections, national and European soon. We are very eager to implementing and looking forward to implementing the directive regarding the interconnection of the business registers. We offer a wide range of online services, assistance, online forms for every operation, legal and economic information disclosure, legal publicity, etc. And at the moment, the integrated system processes over 6,000 daily operations, answers daily to over 14,000 online requests for information. As I told you, it interacts with other institutions based on cooperation protocols, ensuring synchronization of data and information of companies in Romania. We've had yesterday a very fruitful debate and some interesting speeches about our data, and concluding that it is an important element for trade, an important instrument. And I would add that it becomes more important when it is delivered very quickly to our beneficiaries. In the discussions that we have with our beneficiaries, I mean here public institutions, companies, simple citizens, we identified the need to deliver very quickly certified data. 2 years ago, when we launched our online portal, we had an instrument for releasing data very quickly, but the final document was just a Word document. It was just informative. It couldn't be used as official data, official assumed data by our office. As we all know, the certificate of status, the official release of legal and economic information on companies in Romania, provides up-to-date information regarding identification data, as well as the object of activity, type of capital, shareholders, financial data, number of employees, etc. It demonstrates the legitimacy of the right to exercise certain activities and is highly necessary in relation to different institutions. It is also mandatory when participating in public procurement procedures, when applying for a loan, or in front of a court. Last year, our institution issued monthly over 33,000 certificates of status and over 7,000 information excerpts. As I told you, it became highly necessary to develop an online service to be used by our beneficiaries. And this is how InfoCert was born. It was launched in April this year, and it provides documents with incorporated electronic signature, that set of encrypted data. automatically without human intervention, available 24/7. The access is very easy with just a user account. And the steps are just a few: signing in our portal with the account, filling in the information, the personal information, then searching for the company. The criteria we have are the name of the company, the business register number, the tax number, and soon we will have also the European identification number after implementing the directive. Then paying with a credit card. The document is released very quickly and also sent to the indicated email. And then the electronic bill is also released. It is an instrument to ease the life of our beneficiaries and also an instrument to encourage public institutions and other entities to accept and use more online documents. I would like to show you how the document looks, at least the first page of the document. As you can see, it has a qualified electronic signature here, which provides authenticity, integrity, and non-repudiation. Also a timestamp. I don't think you can all see, but we can see here that the date of the release is the 3rd of April, the exact date of release, with seconds also. Providing unique fingerprint of the document, attesting that the document was issued on the specified date and time. Then we have the watermark. Prevents counterfeiting and unauthorized copy. And the barcode. The document can be checked at a later date, either by an institution in front of which was presented, either by the solicitant. In just 2 months after we launched it, InfoCert holds approximate 1/4 of all online formalities. As a result of our intense work, meaning that we had a direct communication with the public, we organized many activities like press conferences, press release, media relations, and also we organized a promoting campaign with roundtables, media interviews, flyers, etc. It is an instrument which was very expected by our business environment and also by the public institutions and simple citizens. This is the data that I already presented. And my last slide, we have declared this service the Employee of the Year because it is very efficient, it is always fresh, it doesn't need vacation, holidays, it is very loyal, and we are very proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvia. I'd leave the floor to Mr. Mitzman, who's been involved in a follow-up of a EU-funded project about identification, and in particular, he was in charge of a pilot dealing with e-government.
I'll speak from here, if that's okay. I think it's okay with the services and with the public. So thank you, Gabriele. Thank you, Vito and Infocamere and the Chamber of Commerce of Rome for the invitation and for the opportunity to speak here. I think Gabriele gave an appropriate introduction. The topic of the talk, or the short talk, will be the first title is Yet Another E-Government Interoperability Project, because I think we've seen many, and yesterday there was even talk about interoperability of interoperability projects. But I'd like to look at Stork from another point of view, because I think it's not just another e-government or EU-funded e-government interoperability project. I'd gladly bore you with lots of details about the project. It's a very complex project. It has technical aspects, organizational aspects, legal aspects that are fairly difficult. But obviously there's not time to go through all of this. I'll spare you the details. I'll give a short overview of what the project is about. And then I'd like to take a deeper look at a single example, a service example, just to try to see where this, what Stork does, and more particular, what the impact of Stork could be, should be, for the commerce registers, for the business registers, which do play a role in the project. As Gabriele said, it deals with e-identity. It's an EC-funded, large-scale pilot project which is developing a cross-border infrastructure to create interoperability between national e-identity mechanisms. So, that's a lot of EC buzzwords. That's a lot of EC project buzzwords. I suppose the most characteristic one is e-identity mechanisms. So let me just very quickly give a mini example of what we're talking about. We're talking about business persons from one country, in this slide a random European country, wanting to do business in other European countries. And the first step of any business person looking to go abroad, looking to go in other countries, even online, and in some sense especially online, is to get an identity. And to access government portals in other countries, it's very often necessary to get a portal identity, to go down and really do business services or complete business services at an e-government portal. You might also need an online e-identity, an electronic certificate, some form of e-identity. And so for a small business person looking to go to a number of European countries, this is obviously a pretty big inconvenience. The Stork proposal is an alternative which says, you as an Italian, you as any European businessman, you have your own national e-identity system, national e-identity management system with tokens, cards, passwords, whatever the system may be. We will make that interoperable. We will make that recognized in other countries so that, for example, the Italian I have an Italian card or a token, can use that to access foreign portals. And so that's the basic setup. Of course, things are more complicated for a business person because not only does he have to establish his individual identity, he or she, but it's also necessary to establish company powers. The fact that a person represents a company with certain powers and capabilities. And therein lies much of the complication. So, very briefly, what are the benefits for the companies? Saving in time and cost, simplification of administrative procedures, a lowering of barriers to cross borders, even a greater security in the operations that are performed. The public agencies also enjoy, let me just say, the usual list of benefits. Efficiency, quality of service, better security, again, a wider European reach. We are becoming more and more a European federation of countries, of member states. This is one of the ways of tightening that federation. As I said before, there are very many details that the project is facing that are indeed pretty serious obstacles, technical, legal, organizational, Political is also hidden behind the word, etc. Some of them we're able to face in the context of the project. Many problems are outside the possibilities of solution in this project. We try to find either workarounds or we try to raise the issue. The project has already given good feedback to the European Commission in terms of a coming directive, a directive which is in the process of being approved, dealing with e-identity and trust services, authentication services. And the project has provided stimulus and even partial solutions to some of the problems that are raised. The roles of the Chambers of Commerce in Italy, the roles of the business registers and commerce registers in other European countries are to validate the company status and verify the powers of the people that represent companies. That's not new. So what is there that is new? So this is what I'd like to say, taking a specific point of view of commerce registers, especially from this group's point of view. I think that Stork shows, it points a way to certain changes in the way that services are developed and delivered. And in particular, Stork shows the Commerce Register in a supporting role with respect to other public agencies, even with respect to private marketplaces or other contexts for service provision. It provides an example of where Commerce Register services can be developed in a deeper form of integration, both from the technical point of view and from the service organization point of view, a deeper form of integration with other public agencies. If I were British, I would call this joined-up government, or a small example of joined-up government, where really a new service is created by taking smaller pieces of public agencies and adapting them to the needs of, in this case, the business person or the business that wants to develop in other countries. There's also a side issue, which is the dignity of the business itself, of the legal entity that is a company. And this was mentioned yesterday in passing, but I think it's an important issue that not just the physical person has an identity that gets authenticated, either in physical form or electronic form. The business itself has a legal identity, and the relationship of this legal identity with the physical person is what creates the powers, the representation powers, and creates a third dimension of consideration. So the project is dealing with authentication of physical persons, identification, authentication, verification of legal persons, and the validation of some relationships between them. And in particular, in the validation of those relationships, there comes the sticky problem of interpreting the powers that a person has in a company, in an organization, across borders. And so semantic interoperability, the words that mean something in one country might not necessarily correspond to the concepts that the same words carry in another country. And this is a problem that we've all seen in any cross-border situation dealing with either the legal status of a company, the activity status, the legal form of a company, or the activity status of a company. The legal powers of a company are another area which touches on national legislation. Its roots are in national legislation, and national legislation does not translate easily. What are the benefits for Commerce Register? I think that this type of development and the type of development we'll see in the example that I show, I think it will help the survival of commerce registers and the survival in a new electronic ecosystem of services, an electronic marketplace of services, which for many institutions, as we've seen, is a jungle which requires new organizations, new methods, new approaches to getting services out to the community. Before looking at the example, I want to make a short exercise in looking at things in a different perspective, looking at things from a different point of view. So let's take the Pantheon in Rome. The Pantheon, which is down the block, a couple of hundred meters away, less than a 5-minute walk. Some of you have probably bumped into it. It's another 2,000-year-old building, which Rome gladly offers. 60 years ago, Salvador Dali looked at it from another point of view. In one of his paintings, he gave it a more modern interpretation. Well, it's not even too modern. There's something a little surreal about it, but we don't quite see too much of a change. A bigger change is really the full context of Dali's painting. It's the Pantheon put into a different role as the cranium of a woman. It's not an ordinary woman. It's a Raphaelesque head. It is supposed to represent a painting by a Italian Renaissance artist. So an antique building is the cranium of a Renaissance head, which in fact is exploding into some sort of atomic particles. That's Dali's way of reinterpreting a classical thing. Okay, Dali might have been more than a bit mad, but this nuclear mysticism, as he calls it, was part of his search for the quantum of action as interpreted through paintings. That might sound a bit bizarre, but I'd like to try to take inspiration from this to understand the Chamber of Commerce, the Commerce Register role in this e-marketplace of services. So as I said before, basically it requires a little flexibility looking at a classic object, the Commerce Register, Business Register, and their services, looking at it in a different context, in a different way. Fundamentally, I'd like to say that the Commerce Register is not a temple anymore. And dare I say that in this venue, but I think we have to look beyond the fact that it's a temple in and of itself, and it is serviced by the public. We have to service the public. That's not a new message, but we really do have to see a new way to perform that. And in particular, empowering businesses in new locations, new ways of delivering the services. And I think in this point of view, let's try to make sense of this Dalian concept of quantum of public administration service. What is the smallest reasonable service that we can provide to the public? And I think it's not necessarily the traditional certificate. I think we have to find newer forms of smaller, composable web services that can be dynamically discovered and used. And even though the phrase quantum of PA services sounds a little exotic, I think it's not too much different than the standard European project term, building blocks. You're looking for a reusable component that other services can compose. But building blocks are a little bit too old-fashioned. So let's look at an example. Maria Rossi wants to access a government portal. It might be a point of single contact in another country on behalf of her company, Made in Italy, SNC. Maria logs onto the service with her user password and uploads a company certificate that she's previously obtained from the Italian Business Register. And she uses that to demonstrate her powers of attorney for this company. Well, there are several things wrong with that. Very quickly, the fact that she's logged on with an identity that's specific to that portal. She has uploaded her credentials, and she's had to take down a certificate from the business register and hand that over to the portal. The certificate contains much more information than is needed to authenticate herself at the portal, but that is the instrument that she has to use. And this certificate has been previously obtained, so there's the risk that the data is also out of date. Let's see how Stork can improve that situation. So in a Stork-enabled world, Maria would log on with her native Italian national identity card, and rather than uploading her credentials, the Stork infrastructure, triggered by a request from the portal, will contact the appropriate Italian authority asking for the appropriate information, the company status and Maria's mandates to represent this company. So we've seen that several steps of the process have been improved. The right information is given by the right agency with back office integration at the right time. What else can be done? How can we improve this even more? Pushing the search for an even more atomic information, a smaller bit of information. We can accentuate the fact that this ID that Maria furnishes to prove her relationship to an Italian company could also be used to prove her relationship to a non-Italian company. So business registers, commerce registers should be cross-border aware so that the person's identity in the company can be found even if it's a foreign person. The information provided should be the best information available, the most appropriate information available in terms of the quantity of information, what information is required, in terms of the quality of information. Information is measured in terms of its quality and in terms of the costs, so that depending on a service, different service providers will be contacted to compose the information package. What could be better than a real-time check of the data if the situation so requires, if there was a prior notification? So it might even be that some service providers ask for an event-based notification service to keep even more than up-to-date information. So let me just repeat some things said before. What are some immediate consequences or actions that business registers could take? Well, the first thing is taking some steps to be a little more cross-border identity aware, inserting and using in business registers native identification and not only relying on a new domestic identification scheme. There's the issue of the powers, of trying to understand powers and representation powers and the powers of attorney across borders. And this is, as I said before, a semantic interoperability challenge, which is directly related to work that the ECRF survey group and the definitions subgroup of the ECRF survey group is looking into on the legal form. The same type of analysis that is being done to try to not standardize, but at least understand in harmonized terms the legal forms across borders applies directly to the problems of powers of legal representation. And then finally, trying to make sense out of this metaphor, looking for the smallest possible reusable services. In the case that we saw, it could be just a small verification of someone's powers. It could even be more minute than that. If we know that who the person is and know what powers they should have, it's not enough just to say, are the powers the same as they were the last time I checked? So in some cases, it's even possible to reduce to a yes and no check a question between agencies. And that's all I had to say. Thank you for your attention.